Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Samantha Johnson, and I am the Assistant Director of Alumni Engagement at the University of Colorado Boulder's Leeds School of Business. Leeds is a top business school offering undergraduate, MBA, MS, and PhD programs, and has an alumni network of over 41,000 strong living and working around the world. We are so excited to have Chris Deerdorf presenting on the power of storytelling and marketing. A few housekeeping items before we begin. First, if you have any questions now or during the presentation that you would like to ask Chris, please send those questions through the question and answer interface through Zoom. We also have questions that were submitted during the registration process, and we'll be answering those questions throughout with content and then also at the end of the webinar. As a reminder, for optimum audio quality, we do have everyone on mute except for myself and our speaker. If you experience any technical difficulties during the webinar, please notify us through the chat interface and one of our support specialists will touch base. Upon leaving or exiting the webinar today, you will be prompted by Zoom to visit an external website which will take you to our brief feedback survey. Your feedback helps drive future content and speakers. Lastly, a link to access the webinar recording will be sent to all registrants tomorrow. Now, I'd like to introduce today's speaker. An experienced and creative marketing professional, Chris possesses in-depth product marketing and product management experience working for Fortune 500 companies such as GE, Medtronic, and Seagate Technologies. Chris is currently the founder of Magic Flight Studios, a storytelling marketing company for small and mid-sized companies, where he's had the fortune to work with some of the fastest growing companies in tech, B2B, and digital health. Throughout his career, Chris has been responsible for developing story-driven marketing strategies that have generated rapid double-digit financial growth and success for companies. His experience includes developing strategic marketing plans, company and brand stories, positioning and messaging frameworks, as well as conducting in-depth customer insights and persona research. Chris is also experienced in translating the above-mentioned strategic work into results-driven marketing tactics such as content marketing, social media, email, and PR initiatives that tell powerful company and product stories over time. Chris is a recent graduate of the Stanford Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program. He has an MBA in Marketing and Entrepreneurship from the Leeds School of Business at CU Boulder and also possesses an undergraduate degree in Business Finance from the University of Colorado Boulder. Welcome, Chris, and thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Sam, and thank you to everyone who's on the webinar today. So glad that you're here and that we have a chance to really dive into the power of storytelling marketing. So without further ado, let's go ahead and begin. As Sam mentioned, my name is Chris Deerdorf. I'm CEO and founder of Magic Flight Studios, a storytelling marketing company for growing businesses. And in case you'd like to follow us or engage with us during this presentation, we're on both LinkedIn, Facebook, as well as Twitter. All right. So I'm guessing it's probably not a surprise to those of you that are on the call today, but truth be told, people love stories. In fact, if we were all together in person, what I would do is ask everyone by a show of hands who here has a favorite movie or book. And odds are pretty much everyone would raise their hands. And that's not coincidence. In fact, psychology research has found that people are innately wired to operate through story. And this even goes back to the days of cavemen, where you may recall that cavemen actually communicated and told stories through drawings on the walls of caves. And if we fast forward to today, the same idea still applies. In fact, I bet if you stopped and you thought about the last conversation you had, whether if it was at a coffee shop or at dinner or whatever it may have been, odds are there was probably some exchange of stories, some sharing of stories. And so all that goes to say that stories are not only really kind of core to how we kind of operate and function as people, but stories are also integral to how we communicate with one another. Stories can also be used in business, and they also can be used to define a company. And one great example of this is what is now known as the NORDSTROM tire story. And the way the NORDSTROM tire story goes is back in the late 70s, a man had walked into a Nordstrom's in Alaska. And he goes up to a sales counter and he slams a set of tires on the counter. And the man tells the sales clerk, I bought these tires a couple years ago. They're now defective. I want my money back. Well, if you know anything about Nordstrom's, they're a high-end luxury retail clothing store. You know they don't sell tires. You might also know that Nordstrom's is really known as the gold standard for providing exceptional customer service in retail. And they train their employees to really give the customer what they want. Kind of really built on this idea you may have heard of, the customer is always right. So what did the sales clerk do when she was confronted with this man who's asking a refund for a product that they clearly don't sell? So what she does is she goes to the back room and she calls around to different tire stores in the area. And she's trying to figure out how much these tires are worth. So she comes back to the counter and she goes, sir, we're happy to take your tires back and we'll give you your money. So she hands them the amount of money that she had researched on her own to figure out how the tires were worth, takes the tires back, and away the man went. Well, this has become a legendary story when it comes to customer service in retail. In fact, even today, almost every major retailer, when they're training their employees on customer service, they tell this story. Why? Because it is a premier example of how what the customer wants, they get, right? And who better to demonstrate this idea than Nordstrom's and how they deliver customer service in their business? Well, truth be told, a couple years prior to this event, the building that the Nordstrom's was in was actually a different department store. And that department store actually did sell tires. And so if we piece things together, it seems reasonable that that's where the man had purchased his tires. But the sales clerk didn't know any of this. But because she was trained and she believed in the value of exceptional customer service, she did what she felt was right in that situation, thus creating what is truly a legendary and even timeless story today. So now that you've heard just kind of one example of the story in business, I thought it'd be good for us to kind of break down what exactly is a story? What makes a story? And a story is typically an account of some sort of journey, experience, or even a transformation. A story might even be all of these things combined. A story is also considered to be an interconnected series of events. Usually this follows kind of the narrative structure of having a beginning, middle, and an end. Now, most great stories, they will usually elicit some sort of response from the audience. These types of responses can vary from enlightenment, excitement, inspiration, motivation. And in fact, I bet if you stopped and you thought about the last great book or that you read or movie that you saw, odds are that you probably had one of these responses. Now, stories actually come in two forms. The first form is a tactical story. And tactical stories are really designed for more of a singular purpose, such as trying to drum up a laugh, you're maybe instructing someone how to do something, or even just trying to make someone feel better. Great examples of tactical stories might be jokes, metaphors, allegories, or simply conversational gossip. The other type of story is strategic story. And strategic stories are a lot more, they're crafted with a lot more intentionality and purpose, and they're usually designed to scale and to be told over time. So a great example of strategic stories would be movies, books, company stories, brand stories, as well as product stories. Now let's take a moment and let's look at the power or the impact of story. So one thing that makes stories so effective is that they have this ability to really engage us both emotionally as well as intellectually. And I grabbed this quote from a recent article on storytelling on Psychology Today. And this quote is from both an MBA and a PhD in psychology. And I think it really gets at why stories can be so powerful. So here it goes. Stories are how we think. They are how we make meaning of life. Call them schemas, scripts, cognitive maps, mental models, metaphors, or narratives. Stories are how we explain how things work, how we make decisions, how we justify our decisions, how we persuade others, how we understand our place in the world, create our identities, and define and teach social values. Well, I think from right there, it's pretty evident that stories, they're pretty encompassing to how we as people go about our lives, right? Everything from how we capture and retain information, how we learn, how we make decisions, how we rationalize decisions, to even how we define our morals and our values. And I think that's because stories really have this capability to kind of operate both within the right brain and the left brain. And so really making them kind of a holistic part of, you know, our daily lives and just how we go about them. Next is stories actually can be more effective than just data by itself. I'm always just really, you know, impressed by the statistic in that we only remember 1 to 10% of what we hear. So whether this is information, facts, figures, but when this type of information, when this data is embedded in story, it becomes 22 times more memorable. Think about that, 22 times. That's really powerful. There's also been a lot of research on, you know, some of the benefits that storytelling can actually have in business. And some of that research has focused on helping new employees adjust to their new culture and also helping to drive and improve retention. Storytelling can also help with the creation of new products. Stories can also help kind of struggling brands really reinvigorate and recreate themselves. And then stories are also useful in terms of trying to attract new customers and also be more effective at building brand loyalty. All right, so now that you've gotten a little bit of a primer on storytelling, I'd like you to just take a couple minutes and write your company story. And there's no rules, there's no process here. I just want you to take a couple minutes and write. And if you can really try and do it in about a paragraph or less, so essentially 4 sentences, and then we'll come back, and then maybe if a couple people would like to share, that'd be great. So let's take 2 minutes right now and just write your company story. Okay, so let's take about another 30 seconds to try and wrap up here. All right, about 10 more seconds here. Okay, so go ahead and wrap up your story here. And we want to see if anyone would like to share their story. And you don't have to, but certainly it'd be great if you did. And so if you'd like to, please post your story to the chat, and Sam will go ahead and read them out loud.
All right, Chris. So we've got a couple coming in here. So this one is from Helen Gibson and started in 1934 by 10 men with $5 each. Denver CU started by gathering up savings from some Denver municipal employees to lend to other employees. In 1934, getting a loan from a bank for a regular consumer, especially a minority consumer, was very difficult. So these employees banded together to create their own bank that allowed for savings of some employees to support the loan needs of others. This way, they created opportunity for one another as car loans, home loans, and the American dream became available to all.
Wow, awesome. Great story. Thanks so much for sharing, Helen.
And I have another one here from Bruce McClintock. Hi, this is Bruce from Hike for Life. Hike for Life is a Colorado-based outdoor education company that guides new explorers to the outdoors. We were founded to address the problem of visitors and residents venturing outdoors, ill-prepared or lacking basic skills, resulting negative experiences or mishaps. We make a positive change by providing online inspiration and advice, in-person education and support, and on-trail guidance and motivation. We measure our success by how we nurture community, inspire responsible exploration, and help preserve the great outdoors.
Wow, awesome. That's another great one. We've got some really good storytellers here. I'm not sure how much I'm going to be teaching you guys today. Any other ones?
We'll give it a few more moments here if anyone else wants to type in their story.
Well, in the meantime, thank you, Bruce. That was a great story there.
Yes, and I have one more here. So this is from, okay. I apologize if I mispronounce your name, but Maury Bata, oh my gosh, Bataka. I'm so sorry, Maury. Please, we'll connect after and I will learn how to say your last name correctly. But the story is near Christmas Eve, a CU student came to my office. He said that he knew what I used to do for a living and that he would pay me to teach him. That's how ERM Academy started, and today that CU student is a successful investment banker.
Awesome. Wow. Excellent stories. Thank you so much, Maury. That was really nice. And yeah, thank you everyone for sharing your stories. Those are really solid. So, all right. So now that you all have had time to learn a little bit about what storytelling is, I want you, and also write down your own stories. I want us to take a couple minutes and actually look at what great storytelling looks like in marketing with a couple examples.
They said I was too pretty to fight. Now she can't fight. You're gonna mess up that beautiful face.
They said I was too fat. Only skinny girls can dress well.
On me regarde la tête aux pieds. Comment peut-elle être avocate?
They said I didn't dress for my age.
They said my nose was too prominent.
They said I was too masculine.
They thought the catcalling was a compliment.
He said, you can fix those teeth quite easily.
Boyish and ugly. When they were talking about female, they weren't talking about me.
This was not pretty.
They would holler from across the street.
Look sophisticated.
Embarrassing nose.
Too chubby. Was too skinny.
Manly.
Crazy hair.
Never looked good.
Too wild.
Too cute. Too beautiful.
Too fat.
He said.
They said.
She said.
I said, no way.
You aren't me. I'm me.
I'm not going to be defined by anyone's expectations.
I don't dress my age. I dress myself the way I am.
Because my face has nothing to do with my boxing. I'm ranked #1 in the country and #2 in the world.
As a fashion blogger, my style is 100% unapologetic.
I don't want to change my teeth.
Le physique n'a rien à voir avec mes compétences.
This is me. This is my hair.
My beauty.
My beauty.
My beauty.
My say.
Okay. So for us to best understand this story, it's important for us to know kind of the background and the context behind the story. And in 2004, the Dove brand was really struggling. They were losing market share in the cosmetic and beauty space. and they were unsure what to do. And what their marketing team and their marketing firm did is they took a look at what was going on within the industry at the time. And what they were seeing was pretty much a homogenous approach by their competitors in terms of all of their competitors defining being beautiful as looking like a supermodel. And in fact, all their competitors had basically signed supermodels as spokeswomen and were building marketing campaigns around them. And what Dove did is they said, what if we go in the complete opposite direction? What if we really challenge the status quo of what it means to be beautiful? And that gave birth to what is now known as the Real Beauty campaign. This campaign initially started as just billboards and magazine ads, and they featured everyday looking women. It might be women with different facial features, with different body shapes, even older women, senior women. And through these billboards and ads, Dove was really kind of challenging, and asking the question, what do you think it means to be beautiful? Or they even just say the statement, I am beautiful, right? And Dove really kind of got this conversation started about how, due to the media and also due to kind of how beauty companies were marketing and advertising their products, there was kind of this distorted idea of, the definition of being beautiful. Well, then Dove was one of the first major brands to really embrace YouTube in terms of a medium for distributing content, particularly their videos. So they started to create a series of videos where it featured women having very kind of authentic conversations and honest discussions around what it meant to be beautiful. Everything from, you may recall, about 15 years ago, there was a time-lapse video of a ordinary-looking woman who was transformed into basically looking like a supermodel for a magazine ad, to even moms having conversations with their daughters about how they didn't want to feel these unfair pressures of kind of media standards of beauty, to even the video I just showed you here, which is the most recent video of the Real Beauty campaign, which features women talking about how they are pursuing their dreams, they're living out what they want to do with their lives successfully, but they were also told, and they also had to overcome this idea that they couldn't do what they wanted because of how they looked and what people associated and stereotypes that were made with beauty. Well, this has become a very successful campaign for Dove. In fact, it's 15 years running. If you Google Dove Real Beauty, you can kind of see everything that they have going on around this campaign. And while the executives at Dove to this day have yet to reveal the specific results of the campaign, they have publicly stated that it is an extremely successful campaign that has done wonders for revitalizing the Dove brand. In fact, there's kind of a whole movement built around Dove in terms of this idea of authentic beauty. Dove also has nonprofits they started that are focused on building self-esteem in women. And it's also been so successful for women and females that Dove has kind of transitioned this approach for men as well. And so if you were to go on YouTube or just Google, Dove for men, you'd actually see marketing content that is focused around men having very honest and transparent and authentic conversations about what they think it means to be a man. So that's Dove Real Beauty. All right, our next one, Apple, get a Mac.
Hello, I'm a Mac.
And I'm a PC. What are you reading?
Just the Wall Street Journal, it's nothing. Oh, no, a PC, you know what?
Oh, it's a review of you.
Don't read it.
Oh, it's from Walt Mossberg, one of the most respected technology experts on the planet. Apparently you're the finest desktop PC on the market at any price. Very nice.
Just one man's opinion.
I actually got a great review this morning, too.
Oh,
and they said I was awesome.
Good for you.
And so we're the same.
Yeah, what was that in?
The awesome computer review weekly journal.
Hello, I'm a Mac.
And I'm a PC. We've got a little network going here, and it was very easy to set up.
We speak each other's language.
We share our internet connection and all sorts of things we do together. Who's this now?
This is that new digital camera from Japan. Just came out. Hajimemashite.
Hajimemashite.
Yoroshiku onegaishimasu.
Wait. You speak her language?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Everything just kind of works with a Mac. Arigato. So?
Buongiorno. Hello.
Hello, I'm a Mac.
And I'm a PC.
Oh, hey, iPod. Nice.
Yeah, it's just a little something to hold my slow jams.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and it works so seamlessly with iTunes.
You should check out iMovie, iPhoto, iWeb, because they all work like iTunes. iLife. Comes on every Mac.
Well, I have some very cool apps that are bundled with me.
Well, like what do you got?
Calculator.
That's cool. Mm-hmm. Anything else?
Clock. A clock.
Sounds like hours of fun.
Yeah.
Or at least minutes.
All right, Apple, get a Mac. The case study for this goes that in 2005, the sales of Macs were pretty bad. And so much so that Apple was really kind of exploring all options in terms of what they could do to really kind of give them a shot in the arm for Mac sales. And what Steve Jobs and his marketing team did is they took a look at essentially the computer market space. And what they saw is that there were loyal PC users on one end, there were loyal Mac users on the other, but then there was kind of this meaty middle of non-loyal PC users who used the PC but weren't very, excited or passionate about their PC, but maybe just used it because that's all they had known growing up, or maybe they just used one at work and that's just all they knew. So they decided they were going to go after these non-loyal PC users. And they wanted to do so in a unique and creative way. And so they came up with this idea of personifying a Mac and a PC. And the idea is that these characters representing a Mac and a PC would actually tell their respective stories, almost debate style, like politicians. And so what they did is they created these videos of these two characters juxtaposed up against one another, both very distinct looking and both kind of how they dressed and appeared and also personality. And really both were essentially kind of spouting off both kind of facts and figures, but also kind of trying to make themselves more compelling and relatable in terms of people and kind of how they came across emotionally. Well, the first video aired during the 2006 Super Bowl, and it was an instant hit. In fact, it was one of the first videos to go viral on YouTube. And within 6 months of that first video launching, Apple had already sold 1.3 million Macs, which was a 40% increase year over year. And the videos had been so successful, both up until that time and through the rest of the year, that Apple made them a strategic decision to invest in these videos for the next 3 years. They then made 90 more videos globally, and they became just a huge success for totally revitalizing their Mac business. Next up, Dollar Shave Club.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis.
And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, Pop-Up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
I know karate, I know jiu-jitsu, and drive like a gangster when I'm coming to see you, see you. See you, see you.
Okay. So the case for Dollar Shave Club goes that in 2011, the company launched. And they had gained some initial traction in the market. People really liked their concept and their brand, but they weren't really taking off much as a company. And so the CEO had realized, okay, we have to seek outside investment for this company to really grow and scale. But their sales didn't really demonstrate enough traction for it to be attractive to investors. And so what the CEO had done is he had come up with this idea of, well, what if we create a video that just gets a ton of viewers and we can use that as our demonstration of the interest in the market? And that's exactly what they did. And so they decided to create a company story video or a company overview, but they wanted to do it in a little bit different fashion. And they wanted to do it where they told a very simple, logical story, but do it in a way that was kind of irreverent and also entertaining. So they made this video for about $3,000, and it was an overnight success. It went viral almost right away. And to this day, it is one of the top viewed videos on YouTube with over 24 million views. Well, this video was so effective that Dollar Shave Club decided to basically make these videos their main kind of marketing initiative. And this kicked off a series of videos. I believe to date they've made around 50, where they're telling their product and business stories, but doing it in a way that you just saw. It's simple, it was kind of rebellious, but also funny and entertaining. Well, in 2016, the company had acquired 3.2 million subscribers, and that was good enough for Unilever to buy them for $1 billion. All right, so now that you've seen some of those examples of great storytelling and marketing, I want us to take a few minutes and really kind of break down how these stories are being told, and more specifically, how they're being created. And I thought it'd be fun for us to kind of look at how great storytelling is done in film, particularly looking at films like movies made by Pixar and Lucasfilm, and then drawing the parallels between their storytelling approaches to the approaches in storytelling that we just saw. So the first step in great storytelling is you have to define your objective, right? No great story out there was just, created, out of thin air, willy-nilly, but usually there is some sort of purpose or point to this story. And so it's really important, up front to be clear about what you're trying to achieve with your story. And I think one of the best examples of this is Pixar. And Pixar has what's known as their 19 rules of storytelling. And this is basically a framework that they put every one of their films through to really kind of flush out the story they're telling, and really at the end of the day, ensure that the story they have that they're gonna make is absolutely the best story possible. And one of the rules in the storytelling framework is rule number 14, and the rule goes, why must you tell this story, right? And the idea here is it's really getting at, what's your why behind the story? Why is it that you have this burning desire to tell this story? What is it about this story? And at the end of the day, it's really getting at, what is your objective? What's the point here? What are you trying to achieve? So when we bring it back to business, I think it's important to kind of, before you create any sort of story, thinking about what is it you're trying to get after? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to drive awareness? Are you trying to get better customer engagement? Are you looking to build a brand and have powerful brand equity? Are you wanting to go after new customer adoption? Or is it that you're wanting to maybe improve customer conversions? It could be a mix of these, but whatever it is, you need to state up front what your objective is. So looking at our three examples here, Dove's example was pretty straightforward. They wanted to rebrand themselves and then grow through this new identity of really kind of being a brand that authentically talks about beauty. With Apple, they wanted to grow Mac sales specifically by going after non-loyal PC users. And then with Dollar Shave Club, their objective was simply to create massive awareness that would serve as demonstrable traction and interest for potential investors. So the second step in great storytelling is to grab your audience's attention. So in the film and the book world, this is known as having a hook. And usually a hook can take the shape of anything from having some sort of initial dramatization, using statistics, props, or even stunts. And a lot of stories and books will usually start off with some sort of startling problem or event that immediately sucks you in, right? If you stopped and you thought about the last great book you read or a really good movie you watched, I'm sure at the very start of it, there was something that happened where it was like, wow, I'm sucked in. I'm watching this to the finish, or I'm reading this all the way through. And one of the best examples that I can think of is in Pixar's movie Up. And I don't think this is too much of a spoiler here, but the movie starts off where we meet these two characters, and a boy and a girl who become friends initially, and then boyfriend and girlfriend, and eventually get married. And we get to kind of see their adventures and experiences together. And then within a couple minutes in the movie, we see this shot where the couple is trying to have a baby, start a family, and they find out they can't. And oh my gosh, it is just an absolutely gut-wrenching moment. And I remember just like sitting up in my seat, and I was like, I can't believe what I'm watching here. This is a Disney movie. This is Pixar. But you know what it did? It not only got my attention, but it also told me, hey, this is a different story than maybe what you've seen before. This story has depth, it has meaning. And I got to be honest, I was all in from that point on. I was like, I got to see where the story goes. This looks really, really interesting. So I think that's just a truly great example of, you know, how you can grab an audience's attention at the start of your story. So you may not, in business, you may not necessarily have the opportunity to kind of employ elements like a book or a movie. So one thing I really challenge people to think about is, you know, what is the startling problem that your business is looking to solve? What is kind of that you know, big, hairy problem or need that your business addresses? And talk about that. Talk about that, whether it's in terms of facts or figures and statistics. Those are just super powerful way to get your audience's attention right off the bat. Now, if we look at the three examples, they each kind of employed different ways to get their audience's attention. So with Dove, I thought what they did, which was really interesting, is they start off with this image of a woman boxing, right? And if we think about it, it's really not often that we see a female boxer. And so I don't know about you guys, but right away I was like, oh, this is different. I haven't seen this before. Huh, I'm interested. Let's see where this goes. With Apple, their video started with two distinct looking men set to a white background. And while, you know, commercials and videos with white backgrounds is pretty commonplace today, in 2006, it was not. In fact, this was one of the very first commercials that really had a white background with just two characters, right? And a lot of times people were scared to do something like that because it was like, oh, that's a really bare image to look at. But for Apple, it was their strategy to get their audience's attention. And then with Dollar Shave Club, while I don't condone this, they dropped the F-bomb within the first 20 seconds of their video. And I mean, let's be honest, you know, it got our attention, right? It was like, whoa, what did they say? And what is this about? So those are really kind of, you know, three distinct examples of how, you know, story can have a hook, particularly in marketing and in business. So the next step in great storytelling is to have is to create a narrative arc. And as we talked about at the start, you know, really every great story has some sort of narrative arc. And a lot of times we kind of think about this, you know, beginning, middle, and end. But what I like to think about it is really kind of more of a transformational journey. And I think one of the best examples of that is Star Wars: A New Hope. And if you've seen the movie, you know how it starts, right? It really starts with kind of this perilous encounter where the Empire captures the rebel fleet, commandeers their ship, takes the princess hostage, and it's looking grim for the rebels, right? For the good guys. And it's like, how are they going to get out of this? This does not look good at all, right? But over the course of the story, there's an arc that takes place through the main characters, through the story's heroes, that by the time we get to the end of the movie, we see a celebratory image where our heroes, our main characters, are being celebrated and recognized for bringing victory and winning a battle over the Empire and the evil Darth Vader. So really a complete positive transformation from the beginning of the story to the end. Now, when we bring it back to business, it's not always kind of that black and white in terms of storytelling, right? We don't necessarily have the time or the resources to kind of tell a narrative story that way. But what we can do is we can break it down into kind of 3 simple areas, and those are problem, solution, result. So anytime we tell a story, we can follow the arc of having a problem. So as we talked about, what is kind of that problem or need that your customers are really looking to get solved? Solution. Quick hint, the solution should probably be your product, your service, your platform, your business. And the result. What is the outcome? What is the positive change or transformation that happens as a result of your product, your solution, your service, your business? And again, the idea, particularly in business, is you really want to portray this idea of positive change and transformation across your narrative arc, right? So let's look at our examples. So with Dove, what we see is basically Dove presenting their brand as a mechanism for empowering women that otherwise feel challenged by the stereotypes and the status quo of beauty. With Apple, what they offer is a solution, specifically a computing solution, for individuals who maybe aren't that satisfied with their current computing options and maybe aren't that excited or passionate about it. For Dollar Shave Club, they offer an alternative solution for shaving for men who are frustrated with their current overly complicated and expensive razor blades. So if we really kind of break down each of these examples, when we look at the problem, first is kind of this concept of beauty for Dove, poor performing PCs for Apple, and then bad and expensive razors for Dollar Shave Club. The solution for both Apple and Dollar Shave Club, the solution is the product, and for Dove, it's really more of a brand, how the brand makes them feel, and then the results, right? These women with Dove, they feel beautiful, right? They feel comfortable in their own skin. They feel empowered to live the lives they want to live. With Apple, you see by the Mac character, he's pretty relaxed. He's pretty easygoing. He seems generally pretty happy, right? He has what I would say is peace of mind. And with Dollar Shave Club, it's really the idea that users can be satisfied with a razor that's simple but effective and also budget friendly. Oops, jumped ahead there. So the 4th step in great storytelling is to really make an emotional and intellectual appeal to your audience. And this again goes back to what we talked about in terms of the psychological power of storytelling and the fact that storytelling really has the opportunity to connect with us both in terms of the right brain and the left brain. So thinking about the heart and the mind. And I think one of the absolute best examples of that in film is the movie The Incredibles. And the reason I say that is a lot of people think The Incredibles is just this cartoon about, a family of superheroes. But what it actually is it's a commentary on this idea of, letting people who have talents, who have gifts, really use those talents and gifts. So if you're a superhero and you have superpowers, you should be able to use those superpowers, right? So there's really kind of this intellectual and almost academic conversation taking place within this movie. But at the same time, on an emotional level, the movie is really structured and centered around this family, the seemingly nuclear family that really loves one another and really is looking out for one another as a family of superheroes. And so you can see here how The Incredibles really has kind of this duality of a movie where it's kind of making this intellectual point about gifts and using your gifts, but also it's a movie that's about family and love and being there for one another. So how do we do this in business? How do we appeal both to the right and the left brain in terms of emotions and intellect? Well, I think in 2 ways. One is when we're thinking about how to make an intellectual appeal, we need to be thinking about how we can use statistics, right? How we can use data, facts and figures, anything that is relevant to our business. And then also from an emotional standpoint, we need to really be able to empathize with our audience, right? We need to be able to relate with them. We need to kind of understand their problems, but also convey tangible benefits. At the same time, it's important, that we use imagery and audio when appropriate and when we can. So with Dove, what we see in their videos is they use very kind of motivating and inspiring imagery and music in combination with these women kind of really, kind of debunking or saying, people told me I couldn't do these things because of these reasons, but look at me now, right? And then with Apple, what they do is they use, these very kind of likable and relatable characters who are both in their own right kind of using and sharing facts and figures kind of to make the case for their respective products. And then with Dollar Shave Club, they use humor along with kind of a reverence, a little bit of a rebellious nature in combination with kind of simple logical arguments that make a lot of sense, right? Like, why do we need these complicated razors when 50 years ago men did just fine with one blade? And then last but certainly not least, make your customer the hero. And I think no movie does this better than Star Wars: A New Hope. And when George Lucas was writing the first Star Wars, he thought his only audience was going to be young teenage boys. And so based on that, he said, we have to have our main star, our main character, be a young teenage boy. And that's what you see in Luke Skywalker. But what's really interesting in Luke Skywalker is you see not some sort of hero character right away, but a very, I'd say kind of ordinary, average character, a farm boy, who over the course of the movie and over the course of his own arc transforms and becomes a hero that saves the day and is victorious over the evil empire. So bringing it back to business in terms of making your customer the hero, really the idea here is that it's your customer that really should be the focal point of your story, not your product. And the idea is that you want your product or your business to demonstrate how it makes your customer special, right? How does your product or your business make your customer the hero, not the other way around? So when we explore our examples, so what does Dove do? So Dove shows us women, not supermodels, but women that look like average, everyday looking women that are doing great things, that are living their dreams, that are successful in their professions and their careers and what they want to be doing in their lives, right? That's really encouraging, it's inspiring, it's relatable. With Apple, we're presented with this Mac character who he's in jeans and a t-shirt. He's an easygoing guy. He's probably someone we know, or maybe he's a lot like us. Maybe, you can make the argument he's kind of hipster, but nonetheless, he's a very kind of relatable character that, we can get on board with what he's saying. And with Dollar Shave Club, there's CEOs in the video, but we don't see some CEO in a glass office. Rather, we see this kind of, disheveled looking guy, his ties loose, walking around this dingy warehouse and making, a lot of kind of simple, but, pretty convincing points, right? So in each of these cases, these companies are kind of creating characters that are very relatable to their audience. And in fact, these characters represent, a lot of times who their audience is. So again, if we were to kind of summarize this, first, in terms of great storytelling, you want to define your objective, right? What is your purpose? Is it awareness? Is it brand equity? Is it driving conversions? What is your objective? Second, grab their attention, right? Think about the hook, particularly in terms of what is that startling problem that your business solves for your customer. Third is create a narrative arc, problem, solution, result, right? Think of it in those terms, in terms of the arc. Make emotional and intellectual appeal. Express tangible benefits behind your business. Also show that you empathize with your customers' problems, but don't be afraid to share facts, figures, and hard data that are very convincing and persuasive. And then lastly, make your customer the hero. But your customer should really be the center of your story, not your product, and show how your product or your business makes your customer special. All right, so now let's just take another minute or two on your own and you write your story just based on kind of everything you learned today, and then we'll come back. So take about a minute or two and then we'll come back. Okay, guys, take about another 30 seconds to wrap up your story. Okay. So, guys, in the interest of time, we're not gonna share any stories, but I wanted you to have this opportunity to kind of write a different story based on everything you've learned, based on kind of the process and the framework we've discussed. And I really encourage you to take that story back with you and really see how you can integrate it into your own company's marketing and storytelling efforts. So now, based on kind of what I shared today in my presentation, you might just think, oh, well, storytelling is really just reserved for videos, right? Not the case at all. I showed videos here today because they're fast and they're easy to really kind of dissect and break down. But truth be told, is great storytelling can be done in marketing across a variety of mediums, from case studies to blogs to social media to emails to even paid ads. And I really encourage you to kind of explore these different mediums in terms of your storytelling efforts. And some great examples to kind of look at for inspiration are one, Yeti. So hopefully most of you guys are familiar with the brand Yeti. If not, it's really kind of a premium outdoor outdoor gear brand. And what Yeti has done has really kind of built their business around the idea of story. In fact, if you ever were to pick up one of their product catalogs, it starts right away telling the company story using the very framework we just talked about in terms of what was this problem that they saw, in terms of, they felt like outdoor gear wasn't durable and wasn't really standing up and holding up for kind of their adventures, to they came up with this solution for really high quality, well-made gear, to now they're able to kind of provide people with enriching experiences, whether it's camping or whether it's horseback riding or climbing a mountain, whatever it might be, thanks to having high quality outdoor gear. So what's really cool on Yeti's website is if you scroll around, they have an entire web page dedicated to stories. And these stories are written stories, they're video stories, they're short form, they're long form, and they're really about kind of how, people, may not be famous people, could a lot of times be, everyday people, going on these really amazing adventures using Yeti products. But yet the product isn't the kind of the centerpiece. It's the adventure that these people are having, right? It's the amazing experiences that people are able to have as a result of having great outdoor gear. The other example I really encourage you to check out is Bonobos. And Bonobos is a online upscale clothing retailer. And what Bonobos does in terms of storytelling is they select interesting individuals, sometimes celebrities, sometimes not, and they have them trial their clothes and while they're doing, interesting things, and then, write a story about it and do kind of videos and blogs and kind of longer form case studies about these experiences that these individuals have. Case in point is this individual, Ryan Duffy. I didn't really know who he was before looking into it, but he is actually a pretty renowned global journalist. He has written on North Korea, things going on in Syria, and basically Bonobos gave him, kind of a free set of their clothes to wear, and he then journaled about his experience in terms of where he was reporting, what he was doing, the stories he was reporting on, but also he weaved in terms of, what was the experience he was having with the clothes and how the clothes really contributed to allowing him to be more effective as a reporter and a journalist. And really these kind of stories in themselves are their own form of entertainment, right, versus just being marketing. So two examples I would really encourage you to check out. In terms of resources, so a lot of, kind of this material, pulls from different resources and other curriculum out there. So there's a couple that I really encourage you to take a look at. One is StoryBrand by Dahl and Miller. They employ a very similar kind of storytelling framework and approach that I just shared with you today. Another is All Marketers Are Storytellers by Seth Godin. The next is The Dragonfly Effect by Jennifer Aker, who's a professor at Stanford. And then if you really want to go deep, there's an online course through Stanford University called Stories That Fuel Innovation. So I do have one video to show, but before I do, I wanted to check in, Sam, do we have any outstanding questions or anything like that?
Yeah, this has all been great. Thanks so much, Chris. So a lot of questions were around, what are those various mediums? So thanks so much for sharing some homework for all of us to look into in terms of where else besides video can the storytelling occur. Then also, I think the question I want to ask before we close out and watch the video is, here, I think this could be relevant to a lot of folks. So if a company is just starting, what would you recommend to be the first and best means or channel to use to get your story out there in terms of generating more followers?
Yeah, great question. So I would say if a company's just starting, I think first is really flushing out your story in terms of, writing it in a 1-sentence format, a 2-paragraph, and then also a pitch. Because think about it, when you're starting a company, you're going to have all these conversations with people. You're going to be sending out a lot of emails. So you need to be able to tell that story at a very basic level. And then from there, you can build up to, your pitch deck, your sales presentation, to blogs and videos and other mediums. But you have to be able to tell your story at that most basic level first.
Great, thank you. And we're getting questions about the references and resources that you shared on your screen. So I will make sure all that are on the call that those are included in the follow-up email that you'll receive tomorrow so that you can head over to wherever you want to access those. So we'll make sure to get those resources out to folks.
Absolutely.
And with that said, it's back
all
to
right.
you.
Okay. So I have one last story to share with you guys. And this story is getting a lot of notoriety in the media, somewhat controversial. But what I'd ask is you look at it not through the lens of politics or the controversy, but look at it through the lens of storytelling and all the things we've been talking about for the last hour.
If people say your dreams are crazy, if they laugh at what you think you can do, good. Stay that way. Because what non-believers fail to understand is that calling a dream crazy is not an insult. It's a compliment. Don't try to be the fastest runner in your school or the fastest in the world. Be the fastest ever. Don't picture yourself wearing OBJ's jersey. Picture OBJ wearing yours. Don't settle for homecoming queen or linebacker. Do both. Lose 120 pounds and become an Ironman after beating a brain tumor. Don't believe you have to be like anybody to be somebody. If you're born a refugee, don't let it stop you from playing soccer for the national team at age 16. Don't become the best basketball player on the planet. Be bigger than basketball. Believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. When they talk about the greatest team in the history of the sport, make sure it's your team. If you have only one hand, don't just watch football, play it at the highest level. And if you're a girl from Compton, don't just become a tennis player. Become the greatest athlete ever. Yeah, that's more like it. So don't ask if your dreams are crazy. Ask if they're crazy enough.
Great. Well,
all right, guys.
Oh, go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
Yeah, thanks so much, everyone, for joining the webinar. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to reach out to us if you like at our website or email, or certainly please feel free to follow or engage with us on social.
Great.
Thanks so much.
Yes, thank you so much, Chris, for all of this wonderful information. This has just been awesome. And thank you, as you said, again, to everyone for joining us. Just a couple quick reminders as you're heading out here today. To view any upcoming webinars or request previous recordings, do please visit our website at colorado.edu/alumni/webinars. And then also reminder that we will be sending a follow-up email tomorrow with a recording of this webinar. So have a great rest of your day and go Buffs!